A lot of people aren't aware that when they receive home support services from a home care provider, they have every right to expect a standard of support services that meets their needs and a way that those services are delivered that meets their needs. And if that benchmark isn't achieved, that individual has the right to switch home care providers. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can exercise those rights and also be able to communicate to a provider to let them know what your standards are as well. Let's jump into it. Okay, so many people receiving home support services aren't aware that they have the right to switch providers if they're not happy. And because that's the case, a lot of people are left in one of two situations. Either they put up with substandard support services and essentially suffer in silence and just deal with the substandard and say to themselves, well, this is aged care in this country and this is just what you got to deal with. The other camp of people that we often experience and come across at VillageLocal is the one I'm actually most concerned about. And they are the people that, because of the substandard experience that they've been receiving, they end up cancelling the service. And then forever in their mind, they're thinking, I'm not going down that path again because the experience was so poor. The reality is they end up going down that path again, but only after some avoidable, detrimental, life-changing experience has happened that's either resulted in a rapid health decline, being admitted to hospital, or some catastrophic health event like a fall or something like that. And because those events have happened, the only way to hold on to some degree of independence in their own home and avoid a nursing home is to begrudgingly accept that external support. Now, the thing is, when they accept that external support, it's normally at a much higher standard in the form of a home care package. So therefore, the experience is quite different. And they're quite surprised by that higher level of standard of support. But if only they knew that that higher level of standard support was available much earlier on. And this is what we're going to get to in this particular video. If you watch all the way to the end of this video, I'm actually going to give you a downloadable resource, a place where you can get a step-by-step guide on the steps you need to take to uphold this standard of support and what you need to do to be able to access it. But I'm going to break this video down into 4 simple steps on how to optimize the quality of experience you're getting and switch providers as a last resort if that's required as well. Okay, so here's the scenario. You're getting some support services and you're not happy with them. The first step you need to do is to document what your challenges are, okay? It's one thing to be able to think about them in your mind, to know what they are, but it's another thing to actually pull out a piece of paper and actually write down what your grievances are, what your challenges are, a little diary, if you like, that you can say, last Wednesday, my support worker was 1 hour late for their shift and I didn't get any notice. Write it down, give a date. Another grievance you might be is, I called my case manager and it's been 3 days before I got a call back. And your expectation is you should be able to get a call back either same day or the next day, right? This is not an unrealistic expectation. At least to get a call back the next day. It is not unreasonable, right? If you're waiting a week, 2 weeks for a call back, that is not acceptable. Whatever it is, write down your grievances. That's step 1. Next step, to contact your dedicated case manager, or that's if you've got a home care package, you will have a dedicated case manager or package manager that you should be able to reach out to and to communicate those challenges that you are having with them. And in that same conversation, to set some goals to overcome those challenges. So you're going to discuss with them what your expectations are and what is the plan, what is their plan to meet those expectations. If you tried to call your case manager and there's no answer, well, then you back that conversation up with an email to them so it's in writing. For those people that are on the entry-level Commonwealth Home Support Program, you still want to communicate the grievances that you've documented. There should still be a phone number of somebody you can call in in that organization that you can communicate this to. But because you will not have a dedicated case manager, because there's no real case management in the Commonwealth Home Support Program, you want to also make sure that you document that conversation in an email. And you request a response on how these challenges can be solved. And it's documented. The next step is to measure the change, right? So with a plan in place, what you want to do is you want to give them essentially a 30-day opportunity to sort the situation out. So ideally you want to tell them, all right, let's test this over the next 30 days to see how the standard has been improved. And you want to book that meeting in advance, right? You want to say, preferably in the first conversation you've had with them about the new benchmark that needs to be set, in that same conversation, you say, can we organize a follow-up call in 30 days' time to review how things have changed? So now that that 30 days come up, you can go through that grievance list that you had 30 days prior, and item by item, you can say, hey, there has been an improvement. There hasn't been any people rocking up late without notice. Or there were people rocking up at a later date, but you gave me 24 hours notice, or you let me know that morning that there was an issue with the shift and expect somebody to be a little bit later, which you can show them that you've appreciated that, right? So you're doing that 30-day check-in. Quite often, hopefully this is not the case, but in reality, this is what we find. After that 30 days, those challenges are often still present. So when that's the case, it's now time to start looking at what your options are, okay? You've given your current organization fair opportunity and gone out of your way to help them improve their service, right? A lot of organizations, they pay external consultants. They pay them to do the service that you've just done for them, and that is give them constructive feedback on how they can improve their organization, right? So they actually owe you one for this. And if they still have not met your standard, now it's time to look at your options. Knowing what your options are when it comes to the different organizations that are available in your area. Now, again, this goes for both people who are approved and assigned a home care package, so within the home care package program, but also people who are in the Commonwealth Home Support Program. Just because you're in that entry-level support program, Commonwealth Home Support Program, doesn't mean you haven't got any rights. You've still got the ability to switch provider. Admittedly, it is harder for you, right? Because the organizations are going to be more limited. But for those with a home care package, no excuse. There are many, many, many organizations in your local area. It doesn't matter if you're in a regional city in Australia or if you're in a metro city in Australia. There's going to be a number of organizations that would run at the opportunity to have you as their client. So how do you find these organizations? I recorded another video that step by step shows you exactly how to use the My Aged Care website, which isn't the easiest tool to use, which is why I created a step-by-step, easy-to-follow guide to bring up the full list of all the registered home care providers specifically in your area. But not only that, to also bring up their full price list, because that's all publicly available information if you know how to find it, right? There is a link to that step-by-step guide and the video that I produced on that in the description block below, but it's also in the comments. I've put the link in the comments as well. So check that out and go through it. And ultimately, you're going to end up with a full list of all the registered home care providers that service your local area and their pricing. I've also included a list of questions that you want to ask a provider when you interview them. And this is why I say don't just interview one organization, interview two. Because when you can ask the same questions to both organizations, you'll be able to compare apples for apples, and you'll be able to compare and contrast, essentially have a yardstick or a control as to, was that a good quality answer or was that a better quality answer? Now, for many people we come across at VillageLocal, this can be quite an intimidating thing, right? A lot of people don't want to break bad news to an existing service provider. They might be made to feel guilty, or they don't want a person sort of calling in and trying to convince them to stay. It can be quite overwhelming, and that's understandable. So you've also got the option to not speak to them over the phone, but just to send them an email and put it in writing. And the good news is your new provider that you've decided that you want to switch to, they can help you draft that email, right? So if you don't know what to say, quite often a new provider would be more than willing to help you draft that email and to help you send it off to them, okay? That can quite often be much easier to deal with. Another option, of course, as well, is if you've got family or friends that can support you through that process, maybe be the point of contact so you don't have to deal with high pressure tactics that a provider losing a potential customer might deploy. Well, then you can have them take the calls. So don't take calls from your provider. Let them leave a voicemail and then have your contact person call them back to answer any questions on your behalf. The next thing you need to do is you need to what they call reactivate your referral code. This is a code that is issued by My Aged Care, the government department, and it's this code that the home care provider holds on to. That's their ticket with the government to be billing your funding, your home care package funding. You need to reissue this code so that the new provider can then take the code to them. And the moment they take that code to them, they are able to start billing the government for the funding that's allocated to you. So it's this code that the new provider will need. So the process to that is very simple. You call up My Aged Care and you simply say to them, I'm decided to switch providers. Can you please reactivate my referral code? And that's it. They give you that referral code, you write it down, and then you give that referral code to your new provider. Okay? Simple as that. So now you've advised your current provider that you are switching. Your new provider has your new referral code, and you're on the home stretch now. The final step is for your new provider to log that referral code and to communicate to the government, to My Aged Care, the start date of those services. And typically, the start date of those services will be after any notice period that you would have need to give to your current provider. It's reasonable for some providers to say, hey, you got to give us 2 weeks or 4 weeks notice before you leave. So if that was the case, then the new provider with the referral code will say, okay, your first service will be in 2 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time. And that's when they start the services. And that's the process. That's as simple as that. If you've got any questions, please put them in the comments below. My team and I will be happy to answer them. But make sure you remember to download that step-by-step guide on how to actually find all the registered home care providers in your area and the questions to ask them as well. Hope you enjoyed that. Catch you in the next video.